Ecclesiastes chapter 5. And I didn't get to this last week, so I'll try to get to it today. Do not be rash with your mouth, and let not your heart utter anything hastily before God. For God is in heaven and you on earth, therefore let your words be few, for a dream comes through much activity, and a fool's voice is known by his many words. And dropping down verse 6, it says, do not let your mouth cause your flesh to sin.
That's right.
Woo! Well, that's strong right there. Do not let your mouth cause your flesh to sin, nor say before the messenger of God that it was an error. Why should God be angry at your excuse and destroy? Man, that's strong. Why should God be angry at your excuse and destroy the work of your hands? For in the multitude of dreams and many words there is also vanity. But fear God. God, thank you. May we be mindful of our tongue. May we be mindful, God, how powerful of an instrument, Father, our tongue is, Lord, and what it begins to do when our mouth opens and delivers words into this environment. God, I thank you, Father, that there is life in my tongue. I thank you, Father. I thank you, God, that when it seems like everything and everybody around me in our environment, in our media, in our culture, uses their tongue for divisiveness and death, you still have put people on this earth that emulate you and are your image, that in their mouths lie life. And God, I pray we would be very wise, that we would speak life to our environment, that we would speak life to our relationships, that we would speak life to our situations, God, that we would speak life to ourselves. I give you honor, Father.
Yes, we do. Yes, Lord.
Let your word flow as an oracle from heaven this morning. May it powerfully rest upon the minds and hearts of your people, transforming them into your image in Jesus' name. Amen. Won't you love somebody in this house? Love somebody? 2 weeks ago, I talked to you about having the power to call out potential in other things, other people, and just really using your voice. As God was the creator, but then he began to create things on earth, and when it went from a spiritual form to a natural form, when he created things in a natural form, because man was to be the dominion agent of the earth, he handed man the ability to order everything that was created, to call out the potential and the identity of everything that was created. He brought every animal to the man and said, what will you call it? Essentially, what will be its function? How will it operate? And even when man was put asleep and woman was drawn out of man, God brought woman to man and said, what will you call her? And what will be her function? And through that, God gave us the ability to call out and order the potential of the people around us. We're not there to create them, and we're not there to have a dominion power in the sense that we lord ourselves over them, but you and I have the ability to look at people and look at the things they're going through and begin to call out the image of God that's inside of them in spite of the circumstances that they're in spite of who they've been, what they've gone through, what's happened in their life. You and I have the ability to have a spiritual understanding in communication with God, to look inside of a person and begin to call out the potential that lies deep, regardless of what the world thinks and sees about them. You and I have the ability to order the truth. Lord, with me? Right. And so through that, I want you to understand then, if we have the ability to begin to speak to the potential that lies in other things, then God has also given us the ability to speak to the potential that lies in us.
That's right.
That is the truest form of the representation of God, because God looked inside of himself, had a dream. He had an idea about how he wanted things to look. He had an idea about the world, about the earth. He had an idea about how he wanted things to look and operate, and he looked inside of himself with that dream and began to speak to the potential that was inside of him until it manifested. And in the same way that he did that, he created you and I and gave us a voice that whatever he put inside of us, here's the thing, every one of you are operating in seed form. You are not yet the fullest of what God has built you to be. Alright? But let me tell you this, God, everything that you would ever become already lies inside of you. God does not have to create anything else in your life. It's already been created and planted deep inside of you. And what He's given you is a voice to look inside of yourself based on His truth and call out the potential that's in your life.
That's right.
You follow me? I want you to watch what happens. Go to Genesis chapter 1. And let's look at verse 26. It says, then God said, everybody say said. God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. So let me stop right here for a minute. God had an idea about what He wanted you and I to be. It was in thought form first before it ever came out of His mouth. But once it was conceived in His mind, God spoke something into creation or spoke something into the earth. He said, let us make man. He spoke this thing and began to speak to the potential that was inside of him for what he wanted to create. And then you go over to verse 2, or chapter 2, verse 7, and something that had not happened yet began to transpire. God at this point had begun speaking to the expanses and separating the light and the darkness and the heaven from the earth and the waters from the firmament. And He did all of that by His mouth, by speaking things. But when it came to man, the very thing that would be created in His image, He not only took an idea and spoke with potential, but then He laid His hands to His dream.
Yes, sir. Yes. Come on.
You with me?
Yeah, come on.
And the Bible says in verse 2, or in chapter 2, verse 7, that God formed man from the dust of the ground. He spoke the idea, and everything else to this point that He had spoken began to take shape. But man, who would be in the image like Him, who would represent Him, and who would operate like Him, He spoke the idea of man, the potential of man, but then when He spoke that, He had an obligation to take His hands and begin to form it.
That's right.
And in this process, in verse 7, God not only has an intimate moment with man, but He also begins to lay a transition upon man of a principle that would begin to operate throughout all of eternity. Go back to Ecclesiastes 5 really quick. I want to show you what God did in this moment. God had a dream. God had a dream about Thomas and a dream about Vicky and how exactly they were to look, how they were to function, how they were to operate. He had a dream about Tommy and Denise. He had a dream about Kevin and Renee. He had a dream about Haley and Wes and Lisa. God had a perfect idea about you and I. And He spoke that thing into existence. He spoke it into, but then He said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my hands and I'm going to have an intimate moment with them, and I'm going to make my dream become a reality by my work. In Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 2, it says, do not be rash with your mouth. Do not be hasty with your mouth, and let not your heart utter anything hastily before God. Because God is the creator. You follow me? God is the creator, and you the orderer. God is in heaven, you on earth. God is the creator, you an orderer. And therefore, let your words be few, for a dream comes through much business. A dream manifests through much work. A dream manifests through the use of your hands. But it's only set in motion by your mouth. And a fool's voice is known by his many words. Guys, God understands the principle of how powerful a sound is. I'm curious, how many of you have entered into your prayer closet or your prayer time and you have begged God to speak? You have sometimes even gotten so frustrated because you have not heard Him talk that it literally just will drive you crazy at times because you want God to speak. Are you following right now? Is it anybody there? We just got like 3 or 4 hands. You've wanted God. You've needed God to speak. You didn't know what was going to happen until God spoke. But here's the wisdom of God, is that God says, I cannot let my words just be loose. I have to be very, very true and very concise about what I speak, because my hands are obligated to follow through with what my mouth speaks.
That's right. That's right.
Because what I speak, I have to manifest. I don't have an option to take back what I say, because I understand the power and the authority that's in my tongue, that when it's released, my God, by my potential, it will create. And I have established an order in the kingdom, then whatever my mouth says, my body has to follow.
That's right. That's right. Come on.
Then whatever I've established it in myself, then whatever I declare, my hands have to perform. So I can't let my words be rash, and I cannot let my words be hasty, but I can only speak in the moment that I know something needs to be spoken, or something needs to be manufactured, something needs to be manifested, because I realize if I open myself and I open my mouth out of emotion, out of frustration, out of anger, out of confusion, out of anything but the truth, something will be released into the environment that I now become responsible for. You with me?
That's right.
Bring it.
So he says, let your words be few, and because I have built you in my image, I have given your voice the same authority as mine. And where mine creates, yours orders. Where mine, watch what he does. He says, he tells you a little bit later on when Jesus comes and he reestablishes the Spirit and he hands the keys of the kingdom back over to man and he brings the Spirit back in. He says, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Are you following me right now?
Come on.
Do you understand the authority then that God has granted your voice? That the Creator says, I'm the Creator and you're the orderer. And whatever you order on earth, if I hear it with my ears in heaven, I have a responsibility based on the order that I've set before man that I must manifest it on earth.
Bring it.
Is anybody,
Bring it.
is this all right?
Bring it.
Is this all right?
Bring it.
So it says, don't be hasty with your words. Begin to understand the power that lies in your tongue. Don't be hasty. Don't be rash with your words. Don't utter anything out of your heart that is not the truth of God. Because it will begin to distribute something into an atmosphere that now you become responsible for. God has set you up in the same way that he set himself up, that he's obligated for his actions to respond to his voice. Right? The problem that we have is that we run around with bad information and we run around with bad emotions and we run around with frustrations and situations and issues and anger and just lies and half-truths and everything, and then we begin to spit off at the mouth and not having an understanding that, you know what I've just spoken, now my body has to perform. It is literally bound to that. I can fight it all I want to, but everything that I have spoken, I now have a responsibility to be tied into, and I'm working out things that I spoke in my past that I can't get out of because I declared some things and ordered some things on earth that now my hands are bound by.
That's right.
For a dream comes through much activity, and a fool's voice is known by many languages, by many words. A dream. So you gotta understand at this point that in the dream of your life, the purpose of your life is tied to your voice. Your dream's activity and the manufacturing of your dream is tied to your voice. How many of you got dreams? How many of you got something before you and beyond you, man, that you want to accomplish, that you know God has put inside of you, that you want to walk into? Let me just say something to you. Does your mouth match your picture? Does your mouth match the picture that you have in your mind? Because can I tell you what does match the picture? Your hands. If you begin to declare with your mouth what you see in your mind, your hands have an obligation to follow what your mouth speaks. But as long as you're speaking something differently than what you see, your hands are following where your mouth is going, not where your mind is going.
That's right. Come on, speak.
And a fool's voice is known by his many words. Your words are tied. God gave man the ability to order by our mouth. So our mind sees it, our mouths order it, and our hands manifest it. You follow me? That's a 3-point. If you need a 3-point sermon for all old school church folk, there you go. Your mind sees it, your mouth orders it, your hands manifest it. There's your 3 points, all right? I can close up right there. Your body, your operation, your actions were meant to follow your voice. Your mouth was to order what your hands were to manifest.
That's right.
So go to James chapter 3. For we all stumble in many things. But listen, if anyone does not stumble in word, he is a perfect man. Let me rephrase the word perfect as it's translated. He who does not stumble in word is a complete man. What does it take for you and I to be complete? I have a responsibility to fulfill the thing that God mandated upon my life when He birthed me. That's what makes me complete. The very thing that makes me complete is what gives me the ability to stand before God at the great white throne judgment and Him look at you and say, did you accomplish what I put in your life to accomplish? Yes, I did. You're a complete man. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. You may take your eternal reward. What makes me a complete man is not how many times I tell somebody, oh, I love this and this is great and I love Jesus and I worship Him and I pray and I serve Him and I read my Bible. What makes me a complete man is that I declare the truth of God that He has given me for the purpose of my life. I have declared it with my mouth and I have manifested with my hands, and as long as I'm true to my words, to be true to His word, then I will become a complete man because my actions respond to my voice. And you can watch. It says that anyone does not stumble in word. Let me back up there and tell you that He would not put this in His word if it was not possible.
Come on.
He who does not stumble in word, be slow to speak, quick to listen. Be slow to speak, because I realize that my words, if not driven correctly by the power of God's truth, create a stumbling block for me. I know I have blamed many other people for my stumbles. Oh, y'all ain't with me right now. I know I have tried to pass off the responsibility of my failures on others. I know I have blamed my mama and daddy when I was 5 and they beat me. I know I have blamed my ex when he walked out on me. I know I have blamed the bad relationships I had in high school. I know I have blamed the drugs but the truth about it is I don't have the ability to blame anybody else, because the word tells me if my words are bound to His truth, I will become a complete man. For we all stumble in many things, but he who does not stumble in words is a perfect man. Watch. Able also to bridle the whole body. The translation of the word bridle means to lead. Which means that if I do not stumble in words, I am able, regardless really whether I stumble or don't stumble, my words lead my body. He goes on to say it just as a bit in a horse's mouth. If you have ever ridden a horse, you know the bit in its mouth is tied to the reins, and wherever you pull on the bit is where the horse goes. If you want it to stop, there's one thing you can do to tell it to stop. If you want it to go faster, you do. If you want it to turn here, turn there, you lead that horse by its mouth.
That's right.
Come on. Good stuff. Come on.
So a perfect man who does not stumble in word is able to lead his body. He's able to lead his actions. Watch, let me show you something. It don't matter who gives you an opportunity and who don't.
That's right.
It don't matter who opens the door for you and who don't.
That's right.
Because the open doors of your life are not tied to a man's hands, but to your tongue.
Good word. Good word.
That I can lead my whole body. Indeed, we put bits in horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn their whole body. Look also at ships. As though they are large and driven by fierce winds. Watch. They're driven by fear. They're driven by an outside. They are manipulated by an outside force, but there's one thing that can control that outside force. It's the rudder.
That's right.
That's up.
And regardless of where the winds may blow, as long as that rudder is turned, that ship will shift.
That's right. Come on.
Look also at the ships. They're large and driven by fierce winds. They're turned by a very small rudder wherever the pilot desires. Even so the tongue is a little member and boasts great things. Watch. See how great a forest a little fire kindles. How about go to the next scripture in James for me? Watch this. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body.
Yes. Yes.
What the tongue does, what the tongue says, whatever it declares, can change and affect the whole body. Can I tell you, who needs a healing in here? Who needs a body healing? Who needs a manifestation of a healing in your body? Can I tell you something? You can begin to gain a healing in your body based on what you're saying about your body. I ain't getting no good. Y'all don't believe me yet. I'll convince you in a minute. The tongue is set among our members that it defiles the whole body, and it's, oh, this is good. And it sets on fire the course of nature. When you go and look at the translation of the course of nature, it means the wheel of life. The tongue literally establishes the wheel of life. The tongue has the ability to set ablaze the wheel of life. It sends it in the direction that you will go. Your tongue will literally guide you where your steps will carry you. Your tongue will open the door for whether the things you walk in that are destructive or the things you walk in that are blessed. Your tongue is the very thing that sets in motion the wheel of life. And you can't separate a principle that God established. For every kind of beast and bird, reptile, and creature of the sea is tamed and has been tamed by mankind, but no man can tame the tongue. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to go back. I'll come back to that. Go back to Ecclesiastes chapter 5. Do not let your mouth cause your flesh to sin. Solomon is widely known as the most wisest person that has ever lived on the face of the earth. What Solomon was writing in Ecclesiastes was really a book out of frustration because he had lived his life to this point, and through selfish desires, where he was the wisest man who had everything, his mouth began to guide him in a different way. It guided him towards the love of women instead of the love of God. It guided him towards the love of money and things rather than the love of God. But his tongue, his mouth, his seemingly wisdom that he had to be able to use and declare with his mouth now got him in a lot of trouble because he stopped listening to God. He started speaking before he listened. And so now he's back writing a book. There's a book full of wisdom, a book full of nuggets for you and I day in and day out by the wisest man that ever lived. And now he's telling you that in his destruction, in the life that he has lived, and the regrets that he now has, that this very thing here, your mouth has the ability to control your flesh. And if you do not want your flesh to sin, you change your language.
Come on.
Because your hands and your feet and your direction and your doors and your resources and your provision and your connections are literally tied to your mouth.
That's right.
Do not let your mouth cause your flesh to sin, nor say before the messenger of God. Watch. This is what we do. Don't say before the messenger of God it was an error. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. Oh, no. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that. Why didn't you think before you spoke?
That's right. Guilty.
See, I shouldn't have said that. You follow me? Because I want you to look what God says. Why should God be angry at your excuse? He established a principle that he is bound to live by. Why should he look at you and when you back up and say, oh, I shouldn't have said that, he'll be angry? He's just responding to a principle. Why should he destroy the work? Watch what it says. Why should he destroy the work of your hands? Because your hands were tied to your mouth.
That's right. That's right.
Why should he destroy the work of your hands? Because you spoke in error.
That's right.
Why should God back up and clean up everything you've ever done? Because you misspoke and would not listen to his wisdom. I know I ain't anybody like this morning. I'm telling you a principle that'll change your life. You might be mad at me right now, but it will literally shift the direction of your life.
That's right.
You with me? Do not let your mouth cause your flesh to sin, nor say before any messenger of God that it was an excuse. The problem is that we have ordered things with our mouth that our life was never meant to go towards. We have spoken things into existence that our body was never equipped to handle.
That's right.
Watch, we live sometimes. We live in frustration because the resources aren't following the direction that we're going, and then we get discombobulated and we beg God, God, why aren't you providing for my needs? And God said, because you spoke yourself out of order before you ever came to me. And now your body is trying to catch up with what your mouth spoke, but the problem is I never built your body nor your resources to follow the direction your mouth is carrying. And now you're chasing yourself and chasing after yourself rather than chasing me, because now your body is having to respond to everything you spoke. And every time you open up your mouth and speak, if it's not directed to me, your body is obligated to follow, and the spirit realm around it is tied to it.
That's right. Come on.
Yes.
And you have spoke yourself in some situations that you can't handle. And then we get in a place, God, get me out. And he said, why should I be angry at your excuse?
Yes.
We thought it was just this all-loving God, didn't we? Oh, God, if I can just go live like hell and just sit down one time and say, God, forgive me, to be all, no. Oh, that ain't principled living. That ain't principled living.
Yeah.
You with me? It's not, God wants to change your principles. Can I tell you something? That he came to give his life to cover the sins of your life, past, present, and future. In doing so, the whole reason he paid the price was because he had to get back inside of you the thing that had been deceived from you, which was his spirit. He knew that if I can get my spirit back inside of you, and I can change your mind away from the information from the tree of knowledge that caused bad information, if I can get you back to a place that I get you my spirit, and then my voice is tied to my spirit, and I can get you listening to me, you can alter the course of your life simply by talking to me.
Amen.
Simply by listening to what I had to say about who you are, getting back to the Creator and listening to the Creator. God, what do you think about me? God, what did you have for me? Where do you want me to go? How do you want me to do it? Do you want me to be patient? Do you need me to go now? Do you need me to take a step of faith? Do you need me to hold off until you work some things out? God, tell me where I need to go, and let me be slow to speak and be quick to listen. And I can literally take the past of my life and literally cause a repentance.
Hallelujah. Yes, right.
I can cause my life to turn around
That's right.
by my principles that I declare with my mouth.
That's right. That's right.
Yes. Very true.
For he that began a good work in you
That's it.
is faithful to perform it.
That's right. That's right. You will.
The work began in you before you ever had a mouth.
Yeah, very good.
We just got to get back in line with the truth.
That's right. Amen.
And get out of the place that our mouths are ordering things that our body cannot. Can I tell you that many people can't live the dream because they're too busy chasing the curse?
Yes, Lord. Preach it.
You can talk about a dream all day long, but if that's not the thing that you've been declaring and putting to work with your hands, you literally are chasing the curses of your life instead of the dream. Begging for a dream, but living a curse because you've been speaking things out of the ignorance of lies and deceit rather than the truth of God that now you're bound to run after.
That's right.
And we live in a culture where people are dying out of hopelessness. They're not dying in their bodies, they're dying in their spirits. They're dying in their dreams, dying in their purposes, man. They have no direction, no idea about who they are, no idea about where they're going. But if somebody can begin to speak the truth inside of them, that they see the identity that lies inside of them, everything will come to life.
Yeah.
Because their life is tied to their voice.
That's right.
It's tied to the Creator. Am I teaching you something right?
Oh, yeah. Come on.
Yes.
You might not run, but I promise you this, it will change your life.
Yeah.
It will change your life.
Oh, good.
But we got so many people that are chasing a curse. You have to be cautious to speak towards purpose and vision. Now, I know there are many of you that look and say, but I don't know what that is. That's okay. That's okay. Because we have this guide, this thing called a paraclete, the Holy Spirit, that links us to the voice. Remember, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I might not know where to go, but I know the way.
Yes, that's right.
I ain't nobody.
Yes.
No, see, I don't really know how what everything is in me yet, but I know the way.
Yes, sir.
See, I know what to speak because I know the way.
That's right.
I don't know exactly all that's hidden inside of me, but I know the way. And if I can look at the way and I can talk to the way, then I know the truth about who I am, about who he is, and about who I am in him and where I'm going.
That's right.
And if I can know the way and I can know the truth and I begin to declare the way and I begin to declare the truth, then I will live the life.
That's right. Amen. That's right. That's right.
But I have to be very cautious to speak only towards the purpose of my life, the vision of my life, the God-centered plan of my life. I have to only be cautious to only speak. And Jesus gave the example, I will only speak what my Father permits me. That literally is the same mindset, the same principle that you and I need to live with every day. I will not speak unless the Holy Spirit gives me permission. There would be a whole lot more action and a lot less frustration.
Yes, Lord. Amen.
We would have people, literally, the economy, the climate, the world around us would be booming with life if we had a whole lot more people that took time out to say, God, tell me where to go, tell me what to speak. I will only move when you tell me to speak, but when you tell me to speak, my God, I'm going to shout it, and I'm going to build it, and I'm going to run it. And I will see the work of the oil of the Lord through my hands.
Amen.
But I'll always speak towards the purpose of my life.
That's right.
And if I don't yet know what that is, I only speak what he tells me to speak in this moment. Because I understand how powerful my words are. Because I'm built just like him.
That's right.
I'm built just like him.
Right.
I'm built just like him. I'm created in his image. And he says, go back to James. Let me just close it up right here. Watch it. Go to the next one. Go to 8. Go to verse 8. But no man can tame the tongue. Watch. It uses the words man,
That's right.
but no man can tame the tongue. The understanding right there is but the Spirit.
That's right. Spirit.
But the Spirit. Because the Spirit of God way back when said, let us make Wes in our image.
Yeah.
And I know what needs to be in him. I know where he needs to go. I know what he needs to do. I know the grace he needs, the anointing he needs, the provision he needs. I know the open doors he has to have. I know the right places he's supposed to connect with. I know everything. And if I leave it to him, he'll get loose with his tongue. Because man can't tame the tongue. But if he'll give access to my spirit, if he'll give access to my spirit, the tongue is full of deadly poison. With it we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men.
That's right.
Who have been made in the similitude of God. Out of the same mouth proceed blessing and cursing. My brethren, this ought not be so.
Mercy.
Out of the same mouth
Yes, sir.
Mercy.
proceed order and disorder.
Right. That's right.
Yep.
And it should not be so.
Come on.
Come on.
Out of the same mouth come life or death.
Amen.
But it shouldn't be both.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
The picture of my example was this man named Jesus. And everywhere that he went and he spoke, dead things came to life.
That's right.
Wow.
Everywhere that he went and he opened his mouth, blind eyes opened. Everywhere that he went and he spoke, the dead was raised.
Yes, sir.
Everywhere that he went and he spoke, situations and procedures that were out of order began to line up. Everywhere that he spoke, he gave hope to hopelessness. Everywhere that he went, he took a hungry, tattered generation and with 5 loaves and 2 fish caused life to be spread throughout thousands. Because of his mouth and because of the truth of his mouth. Watch, even when it came time for him to die, and they were declaring his death, they were pronouncing his sentence before all of public. Pilate looked at him and said, do you not know I have the power to crucify you and the power to release you? And watch what he says, unless my daddy releases with his voice and gives you that authority, you don't have the ability to do anything. Because I'll bet you the power to take my life. And if I want to take it, I will give it to me laid down. But I will take it back up again.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
You don't have authority
That's right. That's right.
unless I grant it to you.
Hey,
So true. So true.
come on.
Some of you need to find that authority with your voice again.
Amen. Right. Amen. Yes. Yes, Lord.
Let me tell you some things that not ever come out of your mouth. Can't. Never.
Yes.
I don't know how I can do it. Do you see this? It's just, there ain't much to it. Can I tell you that many of you have already altered your day while you're brushing your teeth? Because you've looked in the mirror and had a conversation with yourself that the public don't even know about.
That's right. That's right. Amen.
And you have stood in that mirror and you have questioned whether you have anything in you.
Preach. Yes, Lord. Amen. That's right.
And you have heard me speak and you've stood in that mirror and said, how am I the image of God? Look what I did yesterday.
Yes.
Look what I did a year ago.
Oh, yes.
Look what I did when I was 14. I can never recover from that. As long as your nevers are your nevers, you will never.
That's right.
But I serve a God that says the impossibilities become possible through him who believes. I serve a God that says it makes no difference where you've been, who you've been doing it with, and where you've been